This video is on rational inequalities. Rational inequalities. We have the equation x plus 5 over x minus 4 is less than or equal to 0. So that's the first thing. We're identifying we need to find the negatives and 0. Next, we're going to determine the points on our number line. We're going to set our numerator to 0, so x plus 5 equals 0. Our x would be negative 5. So that's one of our points on the numerator. And we're going to color that in because it can be negative 5. The denominator, we say x minus 4 equals 0. That means x is equal to 4. And that cannot be a point because that's in our denominator, and we know it's undefined if it's in the denominator. So we have our 2 points. So I divided my number line into 3 sections, and I'm going to pick a point in each section and determine if it gives me a positive result or a negative result. So in this first section, I picked the number negative 6. So if I plug that into my formula, negative 6 plus 5 gives me a negative number in the numerator. Negative 6 minus 4 gives me another negative in the denominator. And a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. So in the second section, I picked the 0. So 0 plus 5 gives me a positive 5. So my numerator is positive. And 0 minus 4 gives me a negative 4, so my denominator is negative. A positive times a negative is going to give me a negative result. So the last section, I picked the number 5. And so 5 plus 5 gives me a positive 10, so my numerator is positive. And then 5 minus 4 gives me a positive 1, so my denominator is also positive. So if I multiply a positive by a positive, I would get a positive result. So my goal was to find negatives and 0. So looking at my number line, I can see my negative fall between negative 5 and 4. And I also want the value 0, which is at negative 5. And I use brackets on this side because I want to include the negative 5. And I use a parenthesis here because 4 is not included. So here we have another rational inequality. This time it's not set to 0. This slide shows you the basic algebra to get the equation equivalent to 0. So this is the problem that we are going to begin to get our equation. So our equation is negative 2x plus 14 over x plus 6 is less than or equal to 0. So again, we're looking for negatives and 0. So the first thing we're going to do is determine our points on our number line by setting both the numerator and the denominator equal to 0. So our numerator, we have negative 2x plus 14 equals 0, so x is equal to 7. And then in our denominator, we know our x is equal to negative 6. So we're going to leave an open circle on the negative 6 because we know it can't be negative 6, else it would be undefined in the denominator. And we're going to color in the 7 because that's going to actually be our 0, so we're going to include that. So again, we're going to divide our number line into sections and then pick points in the different section and determine whether we're going to get a positive or a negative number. So for the first section here, I've chose negative 7. Negative 7 times negative 2 is positive 14. Plus 14, that's going to give me a positive in the numerator. Negative 7 plus 6 is going to give me a negative. So this section here is going to be negative. So in the middle section, I chose 0. If I plug 0 in for x in the numerator, I am going to get 0 plus 14, which gives me a positive numerator. 0 plus 6 gives me a positive denominator. So if I multiply positive times a positive, I will get a positive number. The last section, I chose 8. And if I multiply negative 2 times 8, I get negative 16 plus 14 will give me a negative numerator. And 8 plus 6 in the denominator would give me a positive. A negative times a positive will give me a negative number. So again, I'm determining my domain, and I want to find where it's negative and where it's 0. So I'm going to start from my left, and I want negative infinity to negative 6, but I don't want to include it because I have my open circle there, so I know I can't include that. So I'm going to put parentheses around both, and then I'm going to union that with a bracket because I do want to include 7, and that goes to positive infinity. So that's how I determine it. I find the negatives and determine my domain. Any math topics you would like me to cover, please leave in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please like and share, and I'll see you next time.